The more you let go, the happier and more peaceful you become. 30 Zen Stories to Overcome Worry and Embrace Joy. Welcome back, everyone, to Mind Podcast. Reading and reflecting on these short stories from the classic Zen forest will help you grasp the unique allure of Zen's thought through a natural and relaxed experience. While Zen is profoundly deep, its expression is often remarkably simple and vibrant, bypassing the need for words to touch the heart directly. Each story in this book reflects the full wisdom of Zen masters and Buddhist teachings, carrying profound truths about life. This is truly a book for those seeking to awaken to life's true meaning. 1. The boy Bin Ding comes to ask for fire. A temple overseer once attended a Dharma assembly held by Zen Master Fayan. The master asked, "How long have you been attending my Dharma assembly?" The overseer replied, "I've been attending your Dharma assembly for 3 years now." Zen Master Fayan then asked, "Why haven't you come to my private quarters to inquire about the Dharma?" The overseer responded, "To tell you the truth, I have already attained insight into the Dharma from Master Tanfeng." Master Fayan asked, "On what basis did you attain this insight?" The overseer explained, "I once asked Master Tanfeng, how can one who studies the Dharma come to truly understand themselves?" Master Tanfeng replied, "The boy Bin Din comes to ask for fire." Master Fayan then said, "That's a good response, but you haven't really understood its meaning." The overseer replied, "Bin Din is a fire spirit, and asking for fire means seeking the answer within oneself. Isn't that the point?" Master Fayan responded, "You have not truly grasped the essence. If the Dharma were that simple, it would not have been passed down through the ages from the Buddha to the present day." Hearing this, the overseer was deeply frustrated and felt that the master was belittling him. He left Zen Master Fayan, but along the way, he reconsidered. Master Fayan is a widely respected teacher, guiding more than 500 disciples. His advice must have meaning. He returned to the temple to repent and asked Zen Master Fayan, "For one who studies the Dharma, what is their true self?" Master Fayan simply replied, "The boy Bin Ding comes to ask for fire." At that moment, the overseer suddenly attained enlightenment. Zen insight. A single phrase can carry multiple layers of meaning. Each person perceives it differently. Therefore, when seeking the truth, don't get lost in distractions. While seeking within yourself is important, opening up to deeper understanding is equally crucial. 2. Aiming directly at the true mind. One day, Zen Master Wei Shanling spoke to his disciple, Zen Master Yangshan. "A lay practitioner brought 3 pieces of silk to me, asking me to ring the bell and pray for blessings, hoping for peace and harmony in the world." After hearing this, Zen Master Yangshan deliberately asked, "This devotee is so sincere towards the Dharma and hopeful in seeking blessings. If you accept his silk, how will you repay his kindness?" Zen Master Ling Yu then tapped his staff on the bed 3 times and said, "I will repay him with this." Zen Master Yangshan was not satisfied and said, "If it is this, what is its use?" Master Ling Yu tapped 3 more times and said, "Do you still find this insufficient?" Yangshan explained, "I do not find this inadequate. This belongs to everyone. I only think you shouldn't use what belongs to everyone to repay his kindness." Zen Master Ling Yu said, "You know that this belongs to everyone, so why do you ask me to find something else for him? Tell me, apart from this, what else could repay him?" Yangshan still disagreed and said, "If one is already complete in themselves, why burden others?" Master Ling Yu replied, "Even though I am complete, without others, how would the causes and conditions be recognized? Have you forgotten that when Master Bodhidharma came from the East, didn't he bring this for the people? Every one of you Zen practitioners is a recipient of his token." What is this that the Zen master refers to? When the master speaks of this, he is pointing directly to our original face, true nature. Once we have realized our original face, why rely on the charity of others? Yet, despite the words, without a teacher's guidance, how could one recognize their original face? In the Zen tradition, though there is no focus on words and letters, they often speak of aiming directly at the mind and seeing one's nature to become Buddha. However, if we abandon words and letters altogether, how could we directly aim at the mind or see our nature to become Buddha? Zen Master Huangbo said, "Do not seek the Buddha, do not seek the Dharma, do not seek the Sangha." Yet, strive like this in your seeking. This phrase, strive like this, is truly where one must exert effort. Wisdom in Zen, words and letters are merely tools, not the goal. It is like crossing a river by boat. If the river is not yet crossed, how can one discard the boat? But once one has reached the other shore, the boat must be left behind. 3. The tiger's head grows horns. One day, Zen master Huangbo Shiyun went to the kitchen and saw the kitchen supervisor, the Dianzuo, the person in charge of meals, and asked, "What are you doing?" The Dianzuo replied, "I am measuring rice for the Zen monks to eat." Huangbo asked, "How much rice do you need each day?" The Dianzuo answered, 3 meals a day, about 2.5 shi, 149 kilogram. Huangbo asked, "Isn't that too much?" The Dianzuo replied, "I'm still worried it's not enough." Upon hearing this, Huangbo immediately slapped the Dianzuo twice on the ear. The Dianzuo then went and told this story to Zen master Linji. After hearing the story, Zen master Linji didn't see anything wrong with the Dianzuo's answer and wondered why he had been struck. He comforted the Dianzuo and said, "I'll go ask that old master for you." However, as soon as Linji entered Zen master Huangbo's room, Huangbo brought up the incident himself. Linji said, "The Dianzuo didn't understand why you struck him, so he asked me to inquire on his behalf." Huangbo asked, "Why? What do you think was the reason for hitting him?" Linji, still not satisfied, asked, "Is it not acceptable to be concerned about not having enough food?" Huangbo replied, "Why didn't he answer that there's still one more meal to eat tomorrow?" Linji raised his fist and shouted, "Never mind tomorrow, we have to eat now." As he said this, he threw a punch. Huangbo caught Linji's fist and remarked, "This mad monk, you're trying to pull the tiger's whiskers." Linji roared and stormed out of the monk's hall. Zen master Huangbo, however, was pleased and said, "The little tiger's head has grown horns." Later, Zen master Wei Shan Lingyu asked Yangshan Huiji about this story. "What do you think the two Zen masters were doing?" Yangshan replied, "What was your intention in asking me?" Wei Shan answered, "One only knows the depth of parental love after having children." Yangshan said, "I don't think that's it." Wei Shan asked, "Then what do you think?" Yangshan replied, "It's like inviting a thief inside and letting them steal your own belongings." Zen master Wei Shan burst out laughing. Wisdom in Zen. Zen master Linji Yishuan was a disciple of Zen master Huangbo Shiyun. When a disciple strikes the master, it is seen as rebellious. Yet Huangbo didn't take it as rebellion. Instead, he praised Linji. There's an old saying, "To hit is affection, to scold is love." From the perspective of direct mind-to-mind transmission in Zen, this act carries a deeper meaning. 4. The cycle of samsara. After spending 5 years studying under Zen master Jingshan, Zen master Tianhuang Daowu set off to travel far and wide. During his journey, he arrived at the monastery of Zen master Shito Shichan and asked, "If we put aside transcendence in terms of concentration and wisdom, what else can I teach others?" Zen master Shito replied, "Here, there is nothing to bind or oppress. Speaking of transcendence, what exactly do you need to transcend?" Unsatisfied with the answer, Daowu asked, "With this response, how can you help people understand?" Zen master Shito asked in return, "Do you understand the true nature of prajna emptiness?" Daowu nodded and said, "I have long comprehended this. What is called true emptiness does not obstruct wondrous existence, and one wondrous existence does not obstruct true emptiness." Zen master Shito was deeply disappointed and said, "I never expected that you too would be someone from that side." Daowu quickly denied, "I am not someone from that side. If there is a that side, then there must be a this side. Does my coming here leave a trace of origin?" Zen master Shito firmly replied, "I have long known your origin." Daowu responded, "You have no grounds to make such an accusation. How could you slander me like that?" Zen master Shito laughed heartily and pointed at Daowu, saying, "Your body itself is the evidence. Isn't that enough of a trace of origin?" Tianhuang Daowu bowed his head and, after a long period of deep contemplation, asked Zen master Shichi-chan again, "Your words imply that the origin arrives by itself, and the destination leaves by itself. But now I ask you, in the end, what should we use to guide future generations?" Zen master Shito responded loudly, "Let me ask you, who exactly are these future generations?" Upon hearing this, Tianhuang Daowu suddenly experienced a great awakening. Wisdom and Zen, the this side and that side mentioned in the conversation primarily refer to the concept of cyclic existence in the cycle of birth and death, samsara. When Shito said, "I know you came from that side," he was referring to Daowu still being caught in the illusions of birth and death. After deep introspection, Tianwang Daowu admitted that he had not yet transcended this, saying, "The origin arrives by itself and the destination leaves by itself. This is the essence of life and death. Its nature is simply to come and go." 5. Buddha and Cao Dong. During the Song dynasty, Sudongpo visited Jinshan Temple to chant sutras and meditate with Zen master Fo Yin. Sudongpo felt a sense of mental and physical lightness, so he asked the Zen master, "Master, how do you think my sitting posture looks?" Zen master Fo Yin replied, "Very dignified, like a Buddha statue." Upon hearing this, Sudongpo was overjoyed. Then Zen master Fo Yin asked him, "Scholar, what do you think of my sitting posture?" Sudongpo, who never missed a chance to tease the Zen master, quickly responded, "Like a pile of cow dung." After hearing this, Zen master Fo Yin was also very pleased. Sudongpo thought that since he had compared the Zen master to cow dung and Fo Yin couldn't come up with a counter-response, he had surely won this exchange. Thus, he proudly told others, "Today I've won." The news reached Sudongpo's sister, and she asked, "Brother, how did you manage to defeat the Zen master?" Full of pride, Sudongpo happily recounted the incident in detail. His sister, who was known for her exceptional intelligence and talent, after listening to her brother's boast, sternly said, "Brother, you've lost. The Zen master's heart is like that of a Buddha, so he sees you as a Buddha. But your mind is filled with cow dung, so you see the Zen master as cow dung. People laugh at others, yet are themselves laughed at." Sudongpo was speechless, and only then did he realize that his Zen practice was far from the level of Zen master Fo Yin. Wisdom and Zen, the way we perceive the world is how the world reflects back to us. 6. Everything is Zen. A general, who had spent many years on the battlefield, grew weary of constant warfare. Believing he had seen through the illusions of the world, he requested to become a monk under Zen master Dahui. The Zen master said, "The worldly aura around you is still too strong. You are not ready to renounce the world." The general replied, "My heart is calm, and I am ready to give up everything." The Zen master smiled and said, "Let's talk about this another time." The general, having no choice, left. A few days later, the general arrived at the temple early in the morning to pay his respects to the Buddha. Zen master Dahui asked, "Why did you come so early to pay homage to the Buddha?" The general, trying to use a Zen-like response, said, "To extinguish the fire in my heart, I rise early to bow before the master." The Zen master playfully replied with his own verse, "Rising so early, are you not afraid of your wife the thief?" Upon hearing this, the general became angry and said, "You crafty monk, your words hurt others." Zen master Dahui laughed heartily and responded with another verse, "Gently closing the door, yet the fire flares up again. With such a fiery temper, how can you let go of anything?" The general, ashamed, suddenly experienced a great awakening. Wisdom and Zen, habits formed over many years are not easily abandoned. One cannot assume that a fleeting thought or sudden realization will clear away deep-seated emotions. Words spoken in haste can become fodder for ridicule. To embrace Zen fully, one must not rely on the praise or opinions of others, for doing so is disadvantageous to both oneself and others. 7. The nature of no birth and no death. One day, Zen master Yu Dao passed by a tea shop and, feeling thirsty, decided to stop in for some tea and a brief rest. The tea shop owner greeted him warmly and said, "Zen master, you must be weary. Please have some tea." Zen master Yu Dao nodded in agreement. The tea shop owner then said, "Zen master, I have a perplexing question. If you can provide me with some insight, I will make an offering to you. How does that sound?" Zen master Yu Dao looked at him with calm eyes and said, "Ask away." The tea shop owner asked, "What happens when an old mirror is not polished?" Zen master Yu Dao immediately replied, "It is as black as ink." The shop owner continued, "And what happens when the old mirror is polished?" Zen master Yu Dao answered, "It reflects heaven and earth." The tea shop owner, dissatisfied with the answer, said, "Sorry, no offering for you today." Then he returned to his shop. Zen master Yu Dao thought to himself, "After decades of practicing Zen, I find myself outwitted by a simple tea shop owner. His understanding of Zen must be far deeper, and I must be truly ignorant. So, he decided to devote himself to intense retreat practice, seeking greater enlightenment. A few years later, Zen master Yu Dao visited the same tea shop again. The owner greeted him just as warmly and said, "It's been years since we last met. I'd like to ask you the same question. What happens when an old mirror is not polished?" Zen master Yu Dao replied, "The Dharma of Hanyang is not far away." The tea shop owner then asked, "And what happens when the old mirror is polished?" Zen master Yu Dao responded, "Before the yellow crane tower lies the parrot isle." Upon hearing this, the shop owner sincerely said, "Zen master, please accept my offering." He then turned around and called out, "Firekeeper, brew the finest tea." The reason the Zen master was finally offered the finest tea is that he had realized the true meaning. The old mirror symbolizes the true nature of all sentient beings. The true nature is originally pure, without birth or death, and it inherently shines. It cannot be divided into polished or unpolished. The true nature neither increases in the enlightened nor diminishes in the ordinary. When Zen master Yu Dao had not yet realized the true nature of the old mirror, it was no wonder that he didn't receive the tea. However, when his later answers, "The Dharma of Hanyang is not far away, and before the yellow crane tower lies the parrot isle," revealed the realization of the true nature, he was offered the finest tea. Wisdom in Zen, the essence of all beings, is unchanging and inherently pure, beyond concepts of birth, death, and distinction. To recognize this is to awaken to the ultimate truth. 8. One begets all dharmas. All dharmas are one. Zen master Longtan Chongxin, originally from Hunan, lived in extreme poverty before becoming a monk. He ran a small shop selling pastries near the temple of Zen master Tianhuang Daowu without even a place to stay. Out of compassion for Chongxin's poverty, Zen master Daowu gave him a small room in the temple as a place to rest. Out of gratitude, Chongxin would offer Zen master Daowu 10 pastries every day. Each time Zen master Daowu accepted them, he would instruct his attendant to return 1 pastry to Chongxin. One day, Chongxin confronted Zen master Daowu and asked, "These pastries are my offering to you. Why do you return 1 to me every day? What does this mean?" Zen master Daowu gently explained, "Every day you can offer me 10 pastries, so why can't I return 1 to you?" Chongxin, still unsatisfied, argued, "I can offer you 10 pastries, so why would I care about the one you return to me?" Zen master Daowu laughed heartily and said, "I do not find 10 too many, but do you find 1 too little?" Upon hearing this, Chongxin seemed to have an insight and earnestly requested Zen master Daowu to guide him in becoming a monk. Zen master Daowu replied, "1 begets 10, 10 begets 100, and it can grow into thousands and tens of thousands. All dharmas arise from 1. Chongxin confidently responded, "1 begets all dharmas, and all dharmas are 1. With this, Zen master Daowu agreed to ordain Chongxin, who later resided at Longtan Hermitage and became known as Zen master Longtan Chongxin. The wisdom of Zen. Zen emphasizes the concept of non-duality between self and others, and non-duality between subject and object. By offering his own room to Chongxin, Zen master Daowu demonstrated that what is mine is also yours. When Daowu accepted the pastries and returned 1 to Chongxin, it symbolized that what belongs to others also belongs to oneself. The real significance, however, was not in the material object, the pastry, but in the lesson it imparted. Through this experience, Chongxin's mindset transformed from questioning to debating until he ultimately realized the truth. The heart of Zen lies in recognizing that self and other are one, subject and object are non-dual. You are me, and I am you. There is no difference between more or less. You and I are not two. Mind and matter are not two. Being and non-being are not two. All things in heaven and earth, in their infinite forms, are all expressions of one Zen heart. 9. One Night Zen. The author of the Song of Enlightenment, Master Xuanzhu 6665-713, was originally surnamed Dai from Yongzha, Zhejiang. He became a monk at a young age, mastering the Tripitaka and excelling in the Tiantai teachings of Samatha and Vipassana. He had a close relationship with Zen master Zuoxi Xuanlang. Later, he encountered disciple Xuanzhe of the 6th patriarch, Huineng, who inspired him. Without hesitation, he traveled thousands of miles to pay homage to the 6th patriarch at Kaoshi. When Master Yongja met the sixth patriarch, who was giving a Dharma talk in the hall, he donned his robe, grasped his staff, and walked 3 circles around the Dharma seat. Then he stopped in front of the sixth patriarch, shouted loudly, but did not bow in reverence. The sixth patriarch said, "A monk should observe proper manners. There are 300 forms of etiquette and 3,000 dignified behaviors. Why do you come here without a shred of respect?" Master Yongja replied, "Life and death are a serious matter, and impermanence strikes swiftly." His meaning was that time is pressing, and effort in practice must be swift, leaving no room for observing the 300 etiquettes or the 3,000 dignified manners. The sixth patriarch asked, "Why don't you aim to realize the Dharma of no birth, and why do you not grasp the principle of swift impermanence?" Master Yongja replied, "The essence itself is no birth. Once realized, there is no such thing as fast or slow." The sixth patriarch said, "You speak of the essence being no birth and realization being beyond speed. Who then is making such distinctions?" Master Yongja responded, "Even discrimination itself has no meaning." The sixth patriarch acknowledged this insight, saying, "So it is, so it is." Thus, Master Yongja saluted the sixth patriarch and prepared to leave. The sixth patriarch asked, "Why are you in such a hurry to leave?" Master Yongja replied, "The very nature of things is unmoving. Is there such a thing as haste or delay?" He meant that in the state of realization, there is no movement, and thus nothing to differentiate between fast and slow. The sixth patriarch praised him, saying, "You have truly realized the state of no birth." Master Yongja replied, "No birth, what meaning could it have?" The sixth patriarch asked again, "If there is no meaning, who is making these distinctions?" Master Yongja responded, "Even the act of distinguishing carries no meaning." The sixth patriarch affirmed, "You have indeed attained realization. Stay here for 1 night." Thus, Master Yongja spent 1 night at Nanhua Temple, and from this, he became known as One Night Zen. After his enlightenment, Master Yongja did not wish to keep the benefits of the Dharma realization to himself. He authored the Song of Enlightenment to offer guidance to future generations, enabling them to understand the path of practice and realize the true Dharma. Wisdom and Zen. Zen is like an ancient tree blossoming in spring, using stillness to control movement. This aligns with the saying, "All things return to one, all dharmas return to one, one begets all, and all things arise from the one." 10. Unborn Zen. When it comes to the influence of Zen on Chinese intellectuals and the fine arts, it is primarily expressed through refined secular culture. However, in Japan, Zen extends beyond the realm of refinement and touches upon the ordinary, even having a profound influence on folk culture. The Linji school, one of the 5 southern Zen schools, was founded by Zen master Hyun-yun, who presided over the Huangbo monastery. The Linji school spread widely throughout Japan during the Edo period and became deeply rooted in daily life. It could be said that Zen transcended the surface of religion and penetrated the hearts of the Japanese people, becoming a spiritual force akin to a quasi-religion. This spirit, often expressed through Zen contemplation, transcendent thinking, and unshakable self-confidence, is embodied in the principles of self-reliance and self-liberation of the Linji school. This spirit became an indestructible element of the Japanese national identity, providing people with immense wisdom. Zen Master Bankei, 1622–1693, a prominent Linji master during the Edo period, advocated the abolition of koans, emphasizing direct access to the Buddha nature, which is unborn and undying. His approach became known as Unborn Zen, and he was regarded as a great Zen master of the 17th century. One day, Zen Master Bankei instructed his attendant to go to the capital and purchase top-quality paper. This attendant, known for his intellect and quick wit, was often compared to Zigong, a wise disciple of Confucius, and he prided himself on his intelligence and debate skills. Confident in his abilities, the attendant did not ask the master about the specific type of paper, thinking that based on his knowledge and frugality, he would surely receive praise. After carefully selecting the paper, the attendant returned, only to be met with Zen Master Bankei's cold response. "This is not suitable." The attendant, feeling disheartened, traveled back to the capital to purchase more paper. Upon his return, he thought the issue was resolved. However, the Zen master once again said, "This is still not suitable." Frustrated, The attendant set off once more, even though transportation was inconvenient and the distance was long. Now resentful, he began to think the master was being unreasonable. After returning with yet another purchase, the Zen master again said, "Not suitable." Finally, the attendant asked what type of paper the master actually wanted, preparing to travel to the capital again. Zen master Bunkei replied, "No matter what type you bring, it will not be suitable." At that moment, the attendant suddenly realized his mistake and apologized to the master for his earlier self-assuredness. Zen master Bunkei then remarked, "Actually, the first paper you brought was the best." The attendant had previously believed he was smarter than others and that buying paper was a trivial matter, thinking he didn't need to ask many questions. However, Zen master Bunkei recognized the delusion in the attendant's thinking and deliberately said, "Not suitable." In reality, the master made no distinction between good or bad paper in terms of his Zen realization. Even if he had received inferior paper, he would not have complained. However, for the attendant, the true awakening came when he realized that the right paper was symbolic of overcoming his own ego. Wisdom in Zen: mistaken thinking is not inherently wrong. What Zen master Bunkei sought to correct wasn't the attendant's mistake, but the delusion in his mind. Once the deluded thoughts are dispelled, the errors naturally diminish. 11. The profound lotus Zen room. A warrior once asked a high Zen master, "What is it like before the lotus flower blooms?" The Zen master replied, "It is a lotus flower." The warrior then asked, "And what about after the lotus emerges above the water?" The Zen master answered, "It is a lotus leaf." The Zen master explained that before the lotus has emerged, it is already a lotus flower. For example, if there is a person planting lotuses and you ask them what they are doing, they will undoubtedly reply, "Planting lotus flowers." They would never tell you something absurd like, "Planting lotus leaves." So why, after the lotus emerges above the water, does it become a lotus leaf? Upon careful observation, you will see that as soon as the lotus rises above the water, it is surrounded by leaves. Who has ever seen a scene where only the lotus flowers fill the surface of the water? This is precisely the meaning of the profound lotus Zen room. And the subtle Zen insight cannot be explained, as the Zen master pointed out. By using objects to guide others to enlightenment, one can transform a lotus flower into a tree. This demonstrates extraordinary wisdom. Zen can make the mind gentle, helping people rid themselves of arrogance and cultivate a calm demeanor, known as the character of a noble person. However, this calmness is not dullness. Rather, it is a state of self-realization and awakening, where one sees all things as equal. Wisdom in Zen. Zen is the collision of the soul, and the world of Zen is the development of clear insight into one's true nature, Kensho. Zen belongs to everyone. It is a universal experience, naturally existing in harmony with the cosmos, nature, and society. 12. During the Tang Dynasty, Zen master Gulin Shenzan started out as a young monk at Dazhong Temple in Fuzhou. Master Gulin had a distinct characteristic. He loved to travel and explore the world. Later, he arrived near Nanchang, Jiangxi, where he encountered Zen master Baizhang Huaihai. It was there that he received the Dharma and attained enlightenment. At that moment, he realized that his teacher in Fuzhou had never reached enlightenment and felt a deep sense of compassion for him. He wanted to repay the kindness of his teacher and guide him toward awakening. So he returned to Dazhong Temple to help his teacher realize the way. When his teacher asked him what he had learned during his travels, Gulin replied that he hadn't learned anything and stayed on to do chores around the temple. During the summer, he helped his teacher bathe by scrubbing his back. While doing so, he mumbled to himself, and as his teacher had a large physique, Gulin remarked, "What a magnificent Buddha hall. It's a pity there isn't a real Buddha inside." His words implied that while his teacher had a strong physical presence, he was not yet enlightened. Time passed, and one day, his teacher was sitting under the window, reading a sutra. A bee flew through the window and struck the paper covering the window. The sound of the bee hitting the paper coincided with the rustling of the pages as his teacher flipped through the sutra. Seizing the moment, Gulin said, "The world outside is vast, but you don't care to leave. You're stuck inside your old paper. How long do you think you'll stay there?" Upon hearing these words, his teacher was startled. He immediately put down the sutra and asked Gulin what great teacher he had encountered during his travels. Gulin replied, "After meeting Zen Master Baijan, I found peace within. Now I have returned to repay your kindness." Recognizing that Gulin had attained enlightenment, the teacher invited him to give a Dharma talk. Wisdom in Zen. A teacher can guide a student, but a student can also lead the teacher to enlightenment. This reciprocity is the essence of Zen. 13. Tigers, wolves, and Buddha Zen masters often disregard the influence of secrecy or mystical powers, and Yuto Fajun serves as a prime example of this. Fajun from Yancheng, Jiangsu, was born into a scholarly family. By the age of 19, he was well versed in Confucian classics, but later became deeply absorbed in prajna wisdom, attaining an understanding of true emptiness. He went to Nyuto Mountain and lived in a stone cave north of Yushi Temple, keeping company with wild animals and nature. The fourth patriarch, Daosin Gongming, visited Fajun. When he arrived, he saw Fajun sitting, who didn't bother to stand up or offer a greeting. Daosin asked, "What are you doing?" Fajun replied, "Observing." "What are you observing?" "What do you see?" Daosin asked again. Fajun, finding this odd, finally stood up, bowed, and asked, "Where are you from? Have you heard of Daosin?" Daosin responded, "I am he." At that, Fajun invited Daosin inside his small hermitage. When Daosin entered, he noticed there were tigers and wolves in the room, which made him uneasy. Fajun remarked, "Do you still have such things in your heart?" Daosin didn't respond. After a while, Daosin wrote the word Buddha on the stone where Fajun often sat. Upon seeing the word, Fajun hesitated and did not dare sit down, showing obvious signs of reverence. Daosin said, "Do you still have this in your heart?" Fajun, not knowing how to respond, asked Daosin to explain the essentials of the Dharma. Daosin said, "The 100 days of Dharma all return to the heart. The sands of the Ganges River and the wondrous virtue all stem from the mind. All the doors of discipline, concentration, and wisdom, as well as mystical powers and transformations, are inherently present, not separate from the human heart. All afflictions and karmic obstructions are originally void. All causes and effects are like dreams. There is no appearance of the three realms, and there is no bodhi to be sought. Beings and non-beings, their essence and form, are all equal. The great way is vast and boundless, beyond thought and consideration. Such is the Dharma of thusness. You already possess it and have never lacked it. You are no different from Buddha, nor are you different from the Dharma. Just abandon your attachment to freedom. Don't engage in karmic activities of observation. Don't purify your mind. Don't harbor greed or anger, and don't cling to sorrows. Freely and without obstacles, act according to your will. Neither doing good nor doing evil, whether walking, sitting, or lying down. Respond to conditions as they arise. This is the wondrous function of the Buddha. This state of carefree joy is called Buddha." Upon hearing this, Fajun suddenly experienced great enlightenment. He then gave up his secluded lifestyle, traveled widely to spread the teachings, and delved deeply into the Mahaprajnaparamita Sutra. Wisdom in Zen. To truly realize Zen is to grasp the spiritual value of life. While the reliance on sensory perception should not be underestimated, when one reaches the highest state, they naturally transcend it. 14. The realized person claims attainment. Zen Master Lang, living on Mount Zuoshi in Puyan County, Chuao, wrote a letter to Zen Master Xuanjue. In the letter, he described his experience of living in the mountains. "Since coming to Mount Zuoshi, living in the mountains, my mind has been at ease. I see the green pines, the blue ponds, and the moon naturally shining. The fragrant flowers bloom, fruit ripens, and bees and birds flit about. The calls of monkeys echo far and wide. Each night I use a hoe as a pillow and soft grass as a mat. Looking back at the busy world, where people scramble and compete, I feel utterly at peace sitting in the mountains with my heart at rest." After receiving the letter, Xuanjue responded, sharing his view on the nature of seclusion. Xuanjue wrote, "In the mountains, the forest of the bo-ye trees grows thick. The peaks stand tall, the birds and beasts are in motion, and the icy waters rise high. Through the cycles of spring, summer, fall, and winter, the flowers and plants bloom and wither accordingly. From morning to night, clouds shift with the wind. In such surroundings, if one hasn't realized the way but lives in the mountains, they only see the mountains and forget the way. On the contrary, if one realizes the way and then resides in the mountains, they only see the way and forget the mountains. If one forgets the mountains, the way becomes clear and refreshing. But if one forgets the way, the shadow of the mountains will cloud their vision. Thus, he added, if you can see the way and forget the mountains, even while living in the bustling world, your heart will remain calm and serene. But if you see only the mountains and forget the way, even in the stillness of the mountains, your heart will still be restless. To be lost in delusion is called making a mistake. To be awakened is called making an attainment. What one gains or loses is determined by oneself, not by the noisy or peaceful surroundings. It's like not knowing how to steer a boat. How could you blame the turbulent waters of the river? Wisdom in Zen. Whether in seclusion within the mountains or mingling with the bustle of the city, the body may seem confined, but the heart can be free. While the physical form lives in the mundane world, the spirit soars high. 15. A single thought of freedom. Zen master Dogen's hometown was in Taizhou, northern Song. He shared a story from his childhood about a beggar in his town. This beggar's son later became wealthy, but the father continued begging in the streets. His family and friends were all ashamed of him and couldn't forgive his behavior. Feeling humiliated, the son sent people to bring his father home. After bringing him back and arranging for his care, they were surprised to find that the old man wasn't comfortable with the new lifestyle. A few days later, he snuck out and resumed begging. Everyone was perplexed by his behavior, but the old man explained, I live a life of freedom, joy, and carefreeness. Wherever I go, I can eat and find shelter. I spend my days wandering through mountains and rivers. A merchant who practiced Zen had once brought a large amount of silver and jewels while visiting a friend. On his journey, thieves stole everything. However, he remained untroubled and even said, whether I give to my friend or to a thief, it makes no difference. After all, I'm giving it to someone. With a wide open heart, he remarked, if I can give to my friend, I can just as easily give to a thief. There's no difference. Once his mindset shifted, his heart found peace and freedom. This is what is called inner wealth. If one continues to cling to worries and calculations, the lost possessions won't return. Clinging to grief and resentment will only plunge one deeper into a sea of bitterness. How can one ever find freedom that way? Wisdom in Zen. In life, the greatest happiness is living with ease, without worry or sorrow. True happiness and freedom come from letting go of attachments and living with a liberated heart. 16. Awakened, not deluded. A wealthy man built a pavilion in his courtyard and invited a feng shui master to assess it. After examining the place, the feng shui master said that the energy was not favorable and predicted that it would lead to bankruptcy, causing people to leave. In response, the wealthy man decided to place a statue of a tantric Buddha at the entrance of the staircase, believing that this would change the feng shui, attract wealth, and keep people around. At that moment, a passing enlightened Zen master heard of the situation and laughed. He said, doing this will not help you keep either your wealth or your people. The wealthy man asked, then, please enlighten me, master. How can I achieve peace? The Zen master replied, when peace is due, peace will come. If there is evil karma, no matter what you do, you cannot escape cause and effect. If your heart is upright, everything will be peaceful, as this will yield good results. After saying this, the Zen master continued on his way. Those who understand the deeper truth know that the architecture of the building has no real connection to one's fate. The true connection lies in the hearts and actions of those who reside there. If one's heart is upright and their behavior is righteous, the Buddhas will naturally protect them, and the heavenly beings and gods will offer their support. But if one's mind, speech, and actions are improper, they will attract demons and fall into demonic realms. The saying goes, no obstruction in matters, no obstruction in principles, no obstruction between principles and matters, no obstruction between all matters, and this is the realm of the Buddha. Once one reaches a state free from all obstacles, fate and feng shui no longer matter. In practicing Zen, you must always remain aware and not deluded. In every situation, whether with people, objects, favorable conditions, adverse conditions, good karma or bad karma, you must remain mindful and never fall into delusion. Wisdom in Zen. The heart creates the results of the Dharma, and thoughts permeate the Dharma realm. Thinking can transform the Dharma realm, and this is the true principle, the real truth of existence. 17. Realization of the patience of non-arising non-arise. A novice monk, Cao, during the Tang dynasty, visited Zen master Yaoshan. The master asked him, "Do you understand that the human mind is as chaotic and noisy as the bustling city of Chang'an?" Novice Cao replied, "In my heart, China is peaceful, and its people live in harmony." Yaoshan asked, "Did you gain this understanding from reading sutras or from your studies?" Novice Cao responded, "It came neither from reading sutras nor from studying." Yaoshan then asked, "There are people who neither read sutras nor study, so why haven't they achieved this same realization?" Novice Cao answered, "It's not that people cannot realize it, but they are unwilling to take responsibility. Those with narrow minds and closed hearts often struggle with responsibility. Their inability to shoulder responsibility indicates a lack of inner capacity. Those who can take responsibility, regardless of changing circumstances, whether good or bad, favorable or adverse, develop wisdom from their inner stillness, samadhi, solving problems with ease. This aligns with the Confucian principle: in whatever they create or encounter, they will always respond accordingly. Those who dare to take responsibility do not harbor resentment or envy. Their hearts remain at ease, and they naturally grow in vitality, leading a more carefree life, unburdened by restrictions. Zen practitioners, after letting go of all worldly attachments, possess a boundless and unrestrained openness, which is something modern people often lack. Relaxing, going into nature, and singing freely may spark wisdom within. Wisdom in Zen. Zen practitioners often possess a broad, open-minded perspective, remaining peaceful, regardless of circumstances. If one is unable to remain open and adaptable, it may be necessary to reconsider the responsibilities in their life, accept them, embrace them, and enjoy them. The Zen teaching, realizing the patience of non-arising, ultimately points to the ability to shoulder responsibility. 18. The Buddha's words, "Mind as the core spiritual life," is not something realized through single-minded quiet meditation or by refusing to reflect on the myriad things. Rather, it is realized through actively living life. The key to this realization lies in engaging with life while cultivating true emptiness and wondrous existence. A person must live fully without being bound by the act of living to truly calm the mind, realize true emptiness, and attain the patience of non-arising. There was once a blacksmith who worked tirelessly every day to support his family. One day, a Zen master came by seeking alms. The blacksmith took the opportunity to ask the Zen master about the path to liberation. He asked, "How can I improve my spiritual life?" The Zen master instructed him in the Buddha's teaching. "Every time you strike the steel, recite the Buddha's name. Every time you turn the bellows, recite the Buddha's name." The blacksmith followed the master's advice. From that day on, his work gained deeper spiritual meaning, and he found himself energized by the strength of the Buddha's teaching. Over the years, the blacksmith's spiritual life elevated to the realm of the Dharma, or the Pure Land. One day, after bathing, he joyfully bade farewell to his family, took his large hammer, struck a few blows, and sang, "Ting ting tang tang, steel is forged after hundreds of strikes. Peace is near, and I return to the West." The blacksmith's life became a process of refining the heart and mind, which brought greater clarity, strength, and wisdom. To practice in this way is to truly live the spiritual life. The wonder of existence lies in single-mindedness, and nurturing the spiritual life also relies on one's focus. Thus, it is said, the Buddha's words, "Mind as the core." Wisdom in Zen. The way in life does not lie in giving and receiving, nor in choosing or arguing. It is found in, with one thought, realization comes, and one hopes to escape from past delusions. Integrate the wisdom of your true nature into your life, and the realization and clarity will always reside within your heart. 19. When the mind is stuck, all dharma becomes blocked. One day during the Tang dynasty, the poet Bai Jui visited a Zen master named Diao Koa. He noticed that the master lived in a simple dwelling surrounded by ancient pine trees, with cool, refreshing shade and a magpie's nest above. The scene felt so natural and serene. However, Bai Jui found it dangerous that the Zen master lived on the tree and said, "Master, your place looks too dangerous." The Zen master replied, "Where you live is far more dangerous than mine." Bai Jui was puzzled and asked, "I live in Zhongshan town. What could be dangerous about that?" The Zen master explained, "Your mind is constantly stirred by thoughts, swayed by external circumstances everywhere you go. It's like a constant interaction of wood and fire, making you restless and agitated, unable to be at peace. Isn't that more dangerous?" Zen places great importance on the transformation of subjective consciousness. One of Zen's key sayings is, "All dharmas are created by the mind. All psychological phenomena are shaped by the mind's subjective awareness." What Zen truly values is mindfulness and inner freedom. Often, when people lose their autonomy in dealing with life, becoming unconscious or losing control, they feel troubled and distressed. In such a state, they become powerless, unable to control themselves, restless, fixated, and unable to accept reality. When caught in material desires or rushing toward worldly gains, one's inner world becomes unsettled. Anger harms others, while fear causes hesitation. Both are symptoms of a mind entangled in its circumstances and are the root of mental illness. As the saying goes, when the mind is stuck, all dharmas are blocked. Wisdom and Zen, true freedom lies in genuine mindfulness and authentic self-liberation. Only by breaking free from illusion can one truly live a life of reality and happiness. 21. The clever Taoist human life is naturally free, but in the pursuit of desires, people often sacrifice that precious freedom. They willingly trade their true nature for fleeting fame and profit, selling their inherent kindness and going against their noble essence, living like drifting clouds and floating weeds. When people seek validation from others, they inevitably lose their most valuable qualities. During the Tang dynasty, Zen master Nanyue Puyuan once told a visiting monk while staying in his hermitage, "I'm going to work in the mountains. Please prepare some food and bring a portion to me when it's ready." A while later, the monk made food for himself, and during some free time, lay down for a nap. When Nanyue didn't receive his meal, he returned to the hermitage and found the monk snoring loudly in his sleep. Amused, Nanyue lay down next to the monk and also began to sleep. After some time, the monk awoke and Nanyue said, "I once met a very clever Taoist, but I haven't seen him since. Now I see him again." Holding his whisk, Nanyue waved it playfully and said to the monk, "Isn't this clever Taoist like you?" The monk replied, "No, it's not the same." Nanyue asked, "Have you ever met him? How do you know they're different?" The monk said, "If you want to know where I met him, you'll need to put down the whisk first." Delighted, Nanyue said, "I've just witnessed your natural wisdom revealing itself." If the monk had been worried about not delivering the meal on time, he would have lost his sense of freedom, being overly concerned with the task. However, being a clever Taoist, he calmly and freely requested that Nanyue put down the whisk, knowing it symbolized authority. By doing so, the monk showed he was the true master of his own mind and spirit. The poem, "A Single Bowl of Rice from 1,000 Homes," a lone traveler wandering 10,000 miles, facing each person with clear eyes, asking directions amidst the white clouds, reflects how suppressing one's true nature can destroy creativity. Not only does it dull humor, but it also robs one of life's joy. When we free ourselves from the judgment of others and worldly concerns, who can say we are not truly happy? Wisdom and Zen. The freedom that Zen speaks of is the spontaneous expression of wisdom, like a spring of compassion gushing forth like clouds drifting in the sky, unbound and natural. 22. Whatever you want, you will get. Jiaozhou entered the temple of Zen master Nanyue. Upon arriving, he found Nanyue lying down. Nanyue asked, "Where have you come from?" Jiaozhou replied, "From the monastery of Shiyue." Nanyue asked again, "Did you meet Shiyue?" Jiaozhou responded, "I didn't meet Shiyue, but I met the reclining Tathagata." With this, Nanyue sat up, showing affection toward the young monk. Nanyue then asked, "Are you a wandering monk without a teacher, or are you a monk with a master?" Jiaozhou replied, "I am a novice monk with a master." Nanyue asked, "Who is your master?" At that moment, Jiaozhou respectfully approached Nanyue without answering directly, but instead performed a customary bow, saying, "In this cold winter, I wish the venerable master great health and well-being." Nanyue appreciated Jiaozhou's gesture, as it demonstrated his ability to express his thoughts without using words, but through ordinary actions. A few days later, Jiaozhou asked Nanyue, "What is the way?" Nanyue replied, "The way is simply an ordinary mind." Zhaozhou then asked further, probing into the essence of the mind. Is there a higher state beyond the ordinary mind? Nanya responded, if your mind is still attached to seeking something, the way becomes distorted. Zhaozhou, being very insightful, asked again, if there is no goal or direction, how can I know it is the way? Nanyue's response flowed like a clear spring, dissolving Zhaozhou's doubts. He said, the way is not a matter of knowing or not knowing. Knowing is a false perception. Not knowing is ignorance. When you truly realize the way, it is like the vast sky, boundless and free, beyond distinctions of right and wrong or good and evil. The way in life is not a question of intellectual knowing or not knowing. It is about expressing sincerity and practicality in everyday life. In daily actions and words, if one does not go against natural order and achieves what they seek, this is ordinary mind. If they cannot, it becomes manipulation. The true way of life avoids pretense and expresses sincerity through words and actions, free from deception and impurities, rooted in clarity and truth. Upon hearing these words, Zhaozhou attained great enlightenment. Wisdom in Zen. The ordinary mind in Zen refers to applying the Buddha's teachings in every movement and action of daily life. Therefore, every place is a place for practice, and the key is to cultivate the ordinary mind in all situations. 23. The flavor of Zen. Zen education encompasses the concepts, experiences, rituals, and mechanisms for spreading the Dharma to all levels of society, ensuring the continued transmission of Buddhist teachings. The ultimate purpose of Zen education is direct realization for the sake of attaining enlightenment and Buddhahood. In the highest levels of Zen, particularly in Tantric traditions, there is the heart-centered Dharma, part of the supreme Tantric teachings. The primary goal of practice is to realize one's true nature, Kensho, and attain formless reality. This practice does not focus on form, yet it is not detached from form. It is said to rely 2/3 on the power of the Buddha and 1/3 on personal effort. The practitioner starts with the eighth consciousness, first breaking through ignorance and overcoming obstacles, and within a short period, they can awaken to their true nature and realize their fundamental essence. One day, the famous educator Ha Kaitan visited Master Hong Yi. At that time, Master Hong Yi was eating a meal. Kai Ha, noticing that the master was eating only salty food, couldn't help but ask, "Don't you find these dishes too salty?" Master Hong Yi responded, "Salty has its own flavor." A little later, when the master finished his meal and picked up a cup of plain water, Kai Ha frowned and said, "Is there no tea? Why do you drink this bland water every day?" Master Hong Yi laughed and said, "Plain water may be bland, but it has its own flavor of blandness." Kai Ha and Master Hong Yi had been close friends in their youth, and during that time, they had enjoyed the pleasures of life together. That's why Kai Ha asked such questions. However, Master Hong Yi had long transcended distinctions between flavors like salty and bland. His transcendence didn't mean a lack of taste, but rather the ability to fully appreciate the true richness of salty food and the purity of plain water. Wisdom in Zen, people must learn to accept and appreciate the different circumstances and flavors of life. Sweet, sour, bitter, bland, we must face them all directly and embrace them with an open heart. 24. All is illusion. When Zen master Nantop Guangyang first studied under Master Yangshan, Yangshan asked him, "Why have you come here?" Guangyang replied, "To meet the Zen master." Yangshan then asked, "Have you met the Zen master?" Guangyang responded, "Yes, I have." Yangshan continued, "Does the Zen master look like a donkey?" Guangyang said, "I don't think the Zen master looks like the Buddha either." Irritated, Yangshan asked, "If not like the Buddha, then what does he look like?" Guangyang, unwilling to back down, answered, "The distinction between ordinary and sacred is forgotten, and the true essence is fully revealed. For 20 years, no one surpasses another. Everyone should take good care." From then on, whenever Yangshan met someone, he would praise Guangyang, saying, "Guangyang has the Buddha's flesh body." The conversation between Yangshan and Guangyang about not resembling a donkey or the Buddha ultimately led to the question, what does one resemble? The answer is that one resembles oneself. Only by encountering one's true nature can one merge with the emptiness of the universe, resembling nothing and everything at the same time. What does emptiness resemble? It has no form, yet it encompasses all forms. In the Diamond Sutra it is said, "All appearances are illusions. if one sees that all forms are not forms, then one sees the Tathagata. Emptiness has no shape, yet it embodies everything. Because emptiness is formless, it can contain all things. Because it has no form, it can resemble all things. Wisdom in Zen: to forget both the ordinary and the sacred, and to unite essence and function as one, is to realize the formless truth. This is the encounter with the ultimate reality. 25. Seeking the Dharma outside the mind. The illness of gaining and losing Zen master Wenchi was on a pilgrimage to Mount Wutai, and before arriving, spent the night in an old man's thatched hut. Wenchi asked the old man, "What is the essence of this monastery?" The old man replied, "It is a mixture of dragons and snakes, with both the ordinary and the sacred mingling together." Wenchi asked, "How many beings are residing here?" The old man answered, "There were 33 before and 33 after." The next morning, Wenchi awoke to find the hut had disappeared, and in its place, he saw the Bodhisattva Manjushri in the sky. Feeling regretful, Wenchi lamented, "I had eyes but did not recognize the Bodhisattva, missing a precious opportunity." Later, Wenchi attained enlightenment after meeting Zen master Yangshan and settled into the role of cook, Tenzo. One day, he saw the appearance of Manjushri again in the kitchen's smoke. He struck it with the rice paddle, saying, "Manjushri is Manjushri, Wenchi is Wenchi. You've confused me for far too long today." Manjushri then recited a verse: "Bitter gourd, each part is bitter, sweet melon, each part is fully sweet. For those who practice for eons long, it's sad that even this monk rejects." Because Wenchi had not understood his own nature, he spent his time seeking the Dharma outside his mind, suffering from the illness of gaining and losing. However, if one can realize their true nature, as the saying goes, Manjushri is Manjushri, Wenchi is Wenchi, then both are essentially different, but fundamentally the same. Why then feel regret or distress? Wisdom in Zen: Zen practice reveals that self and others are one, and the Zen mind knows no duality. What is there to realize when the truth is not two? People are not two. Mind and matter are not two. Being and non-being are not two. Everything in the universe, with its infinite forms, is all part of one Zen heart. 26. The mind in awakening. During the Tang dynasty, there was a Zen master named Lan Tuan, who lived in seclusion in a cave at Mount Heng in Hunan. He once wrote a poem expressing his state of mind. "The world is vast and fleeting, but it is no match for the hills. Lying beneath the vines in dreams, with a stone pillow under my head. I do not beckon to emperors, nor bow to princes or lords. Free from the burdens of life and death, what more could I worry about?" This poem reflected Lan Tuan's peaceful, carefree life. Later, the poem reached the ears of Emperor Daizong of the Tang dynasty. Curious about the character of this Zen master, the emperor sent a high-ranking official to invite Lan Tuan to court. The official arrived at the cave and saw Lan Tuan burning firewood. He loudly called out, "The imperial decree has arrived. Kneel to receive it." But Lan Tuan acted as if he hadn't heard a thing, completely indifferent. Peeking into the cave, the official saw that Lan Tuan was burning cow dung to roast sweet potatoes. The fire crackled, and the cave was filled with thick smoke, causing Lan Tuan's eyes to water. One of the attendants exclaimed, "Master, your nose is running. Why don't you wipe it?" Without turning his head, Lan Tuan responded, "I'm not as idle as ordinary folks who bother wiping their noses." Saying this, he grabbed a hot potato from the fire, took a bite, and exclaimed, "Delicious, absolutely delicious." The official was dumbfounded by the scene. As Lan Tuan ate, he casually handed 2 hot potatoes to the official, and said, "Eat while they're hot. The 3 realms exist only in the mind, and all dharmas arise only from consciousness. Rich or poor, noble or lowly, raw or cooked, hard or soft, don't divide them into 2 in the fields of the mind and the ocean of consciousness." The official, overwhelmed by Lan Tuan's strange behavior and esoteric words, hurried back to the court to report the situation. Upon hearing the account, Emperor Daizong was deeply moved and said, "A country with such a Zen master is truly blessed." Wisdom in Zen: for those who practice Zen, some live in the midst of the world with their hearts in the mountains, while others dwell in temples with their hearts engaged in worldly affairs. A person like Zen master Lan Tuan, who regards the emperor's summons like a call from Yama, the king of death, and royal treasures as burdens, has truly transcended the ordinary world and become a saint beyond human concerns. 27. The pilgrim monk. A wandering monk does not stay in one place. At times he seeks renowned teachers or practices on his own, and at other times he spreads teachings to others, traveling across the land. Such a wandering monk is known as a pilgrim monk. Throughout history, Zen monks have traveled through mountains and rivers, lived in seclusion in remote areas, or hidden away to avoid fame and burdens. Some waited in solitude to encounter those with whom they could pass on the Dharma, while others welcomed travelers from all directions. This path of the wandering monk follows the universal principle that all dharmas are one. It is simply about responding to circumstances as they arise. Zen master Wu Dai was often on pilgrimage. One day he visited Zen master Fo Guang, who said, "You are a well-known Zen master, but why don't you find a place to settle in seclusion?" Wu Dai replied with some frustration, "Then where should I find such a place of seclusion?" Fo Guang answered, "Although you are a venerable Zen master, you don't even know where to find a place of seclusion." Wu Dai responded, "I've been riding my horse for 30 years, but today I find myself thrown off by a mule." Wu Dai stayed at Fo Guang's monastery. One day, a novice monk asked, "How do I distance myself from the scholastic teachings of Buddhism and follow the Zen path? Please, Zen master, help me choose." Before the novice could bow, Wu Dai said, "You've asked a good question, a very good question." The novice said, "I intended to seek your wisdom, but..." Wu Dai interrupted, "Today I won't answer you." The novice then asked, "What should I do if I want to be pure and free from any defilement?" Wu Dai replied, "This place doesn't host such guests." The novice asked, "What is your Zen tradition's style?" Wu Dai answered, "I'm not going to tell you." Frustrated, the novice asked, "Why won't you tell me?" Wu Dai responded firmly, "That's my tradition." The novice became even more annoyed and said, "Your tradition is to not say a word." Wu Dai replied, "Strike the wooden fish." The novice sarcastically responded, "Even beggars on the street are sitting around doing nothing." At this, Wu Dai handed the novice a coin, and the novice finally had a moment of awakening. What then is the true behavior and conduct of a Zen monk? As Wu Dai said, when on pilgrimage, just be on pilgrimage. When in seclusion, just be in seclusion. Wisdom in Zen. The mind is like a bright mirror. When objects appear, the reflection manifests. When objects disappear, nothing is retained. Like a bird flying through the white clouds or a fish jumping in the water, no trace is left behind in the sky or on the water. By not clinging to the impermanence of things, one can find peace and serenity. 28. Sudden Great Awakening. Zen Master Huikei, also known as Senkei, originally named Ji, was from Hulo, modern-day Xinyan, Henan. He was the disciple of the Indian Zen master Bodhidharma, who became the second patriarch of Chinese Zen Buddhism. The stories of standing in the snow and cutting off the arm are associated with Huikei's dedication to learning Zen. His commitment demonstrated that those seeking the Dharma do not treat their bodies or lives as possessions. Huikei survived the persecution of Buddhism by Emperor Wu of the Northern Zhou dynasty. During the persecution, Huikei and his friend, Zen master Dan Lin, worked to protect Buddhist scriptures and statues. After the persecution, Huikei lived in seclusion on Mount Huanggang, Shuzhou, now part of Chanshan County, Anhui, where he passed on the Dharma to disciples. After the Sui dynasty was established, he returned to Yi City, and in the 13th year of the Kaihuang era, 593 CE, he passed away at the age of 107. Huikei traveled across mountains to reach Shaolin Temple on Mount Song, where he sought an audience with Bodhidharma, requesting guidance and hoping to become his disciple. At the time, Bodhidharma was in silent meditation and paid no attention to him. Huikei stood outside waiting while snow began to fall heavily. After a long time, the snow had piled up to his knees. Bodhidharma, seeing Huikei's sincere desire for the Dharma, finally asked, "Why are you standing in the snow for so long? What is it that you seek?" Huikei replied, "I ask the Master to open the door of the sweet dew of wisdom and to broadly guide all beings." Bodhidharma said, "The way of the Buddhas is profoundly subtle and requires diligent effort. It demands enduring the unendurable and doing the impossible. If you cannot achieve this, you will look down on the Dharma. If you truly seek the true teachings, you must work hard." Upon hearing this, Huikei took a knife and cut off his arm before Bodhidharma. Bodhidharma said, "The Buddhas seek the Dharma and forget the self for the sake of the teachings." Now that you've cut off your arm, what else do you seek? Huike responded, My heart is not at peace, and I beg the master to calm it for me. Bodhidharma pondered for a moment and said, Bring your mind here, and I will calm it for you. Huike replied, I cannot find my mind. Bodhidharma smiled and said, I have already pacified your mind for you. Thus, Huike realized that his afflictions were originally empty, his karmic sins had no intrinsic nature, and his consciousness was extinguished. There were no more delusions, and in this moment of non-discrimination, true awakening occurred. This is the essence of the Buddha's teachings. Wisdom and Zen. When one can keep a peaceful and undisturbed heart, Buddha nature naturally reveals itself. Huike, through his final realization, experienced a sudden great awakening. 29. Linji pays homage to the ancestor. The tomb of the first Chinese Zen patriarch, Bodhidharma, is located at Wufa, Mount Xiong'er in Henan province. It has long been said that every Zen master must visit this sacred site at least once in their life. There was a Zen monk who, although he had never met Bodhidharma, vowed to guard the tomb for his entire life. During the Tang dynasty, Bodhidharma's tomb was given the title, Pagoda of the Great Master of Perfect Enlightenment, and the monk who guarded the tomb was known as the Keeper of the Pagoda. One day, the famous Zen master Linji visited Bodhidharma's tomb. Linji was considered to be an 11th generation successor of Bodhidharma. Upon seeing Linji, the Keeper of the Pagoda asked, Venerable Elder, your Dharma lineage has arrived. Will you pay respect to the Buddha first, or to the Patriarch? Linji replied, I have come here to neither pay homage to the Buddha nor the Patriarch. The keeper, confused, asked, Why, Master? Have the Buddha and the Patriarch wronged you in some way? Linji responded with a question. You ask that for the sake of the Buddha and the Patriarch, but have they ever done you any favors? The keeper, unsure how to answer, fell silent. After a long pause, he asked, So, where should I begin? Linji offered this teaching. To eliminate enmity and gratitude, you must understand that the Dharma is impartial, and only then can you see the original face of the Patriarch. The keeper asked again, What is the impartial Dharma? Linji recited a verse from the Faith in Mind by the third Patriarch, Zen Master Senken. The way is not difficult, but only if you refrain from picking and choosing. When love and hate are both absent, everything becomes clear and undisguised. At last, the Keeper of the Pagoda experienced a great awakening. Linji had received the Dharma from Zen Master Huangbo. Huangbo's teaching emphasized that one should not seek Buddha, Dharma, or Sangha. Linji, now at the tomb of Bodhidharma, had fully embodied this teaching of non-seeking, realizing that both Buddha and Patriarch were united in his own true nature. Therefore, there was no longer any distinction between Buddha and Patriarch, and no need to cultivate enmity or gratitude. Wisdom in Zen. By letting go of discrimination, all external enmity and gratitude cease to exist. 30. Change in the unchanging. During the Tang dynasty, Emperor Wuzong launched a campaign to destroy Buddhism, leading Zen master Yanto to sew a simple set of common clothes, preparing to adapt to the difficult circumstances. Soon after, an imperial edict was issued, forcing monks and nuns to return to lay life, with prominent monks even being captured and interrogated. In response to the oppressive political climate, Yanto disguised himself by wearing commoners' clothes and a bamboo hat, hiding in a laywoman's Buddhist temple. At that time, the laywoman was eating in the dining hall when Yanto staggered into the kitchen, grabbed a pair of chopsticks, and began eating as well. A novice saw him and reported it to the laywoman. Armed with a stick, she prepared to confront him, saying, "Oh, it turns out to be Venerable Yanto. Why have you transformed?" Yanto, calm and unhurried, responded, "Form can change, but nature cannot." Later, when Zen Master Dainan first met Yanto, Yanto was pulling weeds outside the temple. Dainan, wearing a bamboo hat, stumbled toward Yanto and knocked on Yanto's hat, asking, "Do you remember me?" Yanto grabbed a handful of grass and struck Dainan in the face, saying, "The world is ever-changing and impermanent. I don't remember." Dainan, not backing down, replied, "The world may be impermanent, but the Dharma nature is eternal. How can you not acknowledge the debt?" Hearing this, Yanto struck Dainan 3 more times. Only then did Dainan straighten up and enter the monk's hall. Yanto remarked, "We've already exchanged enough words. There's no need to step further into the hall." Dainan turned and left, but after breakfast the next day, he re-entered the hall. As soon as he entered, Yanto leaped from the Dharma seat, grabbed Dainan by the robe, and demanded, "Speak quickly, speak quickly. Where is the unchanging debt?" Dainan grabbed Yanto's robe in return and replied, "In the laywoman's house, form can change, but nature cannot." Both men laughed heartily. The Dharma in this world, its forms may arise and perish and its manifestations may change, but the Dharma nature remains unchanged. Just as the world goes through stages of formation, dwelling, decay, and emptiness, and humans experience birth, aging, illness, and death, the mind goes through birth, abiding, change, and cessation. Yet the true nature of all Dharma, the original face, remains constant, eternally fresh through the ages. During times of political turmoil, when religious freedom was lost, Yanto adapted by wearing commoners' clothes. As he said, "Form may change, but mind nature remains unchanging." Wisdom in Zen, we should all realize that our true mind remains unchanged, just as gold can be shaped into earrings, rings, or bracelets, yet its essence as gold never changes. As beings move through the 5 realms of existence, their true nature remains forever the same.